Hey, GLP-1 plus sides community. Before we jump into the podcast, please take the time to leave us a 5-star review on whatever audio platform you're listening to the podcast on. Share your story and how the podcast has helped you. This will help us get referred up in the audio platform so that we can reach more people that need our help, our support, and guidance from our doctors. Help us get loud and change things. Are you interested in understanding GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, wegovy, or Mounjaro? Then join us on the Plus Sides Cracking the Obesity Code, the groundbreaking podcast helping people change their lives one episode at a time. The Plus Sides podcast is a disruptor. We're breaking down barriers, smashing stereotypes, and sharing inspiring stories that'll leave you feeling informed and empowered. Join us every week to learn from doctors who are specialists around GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, wegovy, and Mounjaro. They'll provide you with science and facts to validate these incredible stories. But that's not all. We'll also bring you the voices of the GLP-1 Mounjaro TikTok community, real people who face the challenges of obesity-related diseases and disorders and discovered the incredible plus sides of GLP-1 medications. Our episodes are filled with heartwarming stories, laughter, and moments of triumph. You'll connect with our amazing community members who are reclaiming their health and experiencing their fullest lives. Are you ready to embark on a journey of discovery and empowerment? Tune in to the Plus Sides Cracking the Obesity Code, and together we'll change the narrative around obesity and end the stigma. Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and join our incredible community. Let's celebrate the plus sides of life together, because every story deserves to be heard. Every life deserves to shine, and everyone deserves access to expert knowledge and medication. The Plus Sides Podcast. You're not alone. It's not your fault. Hey everyone, before we dive in, I really want to share something personal with you. About, I want to say like 8 to 10 months ago, after losing 100 pounds on GLP-1s and keeping it off for a long time, I started regaining out of nowhere, and I was terrified. But I also started having hot flashes and bouts of crying and snacky cravings and waking up at 3 a.m. unable to go back to sleep. It turns out I was in perimenopause. So I started hormone replacement therapy, which is also called HRT, through a telehealth called Winona that specializes in this. And it changed everything. And now I'm sleeping better. And my hot flashes are all but gone, thank God. And I feel like myself again. And it turns out that you can actually start perimenopause as early as 35. And well, I'm 46 and she's here. HRT has really come a long way, and there's just no need to suffer anymore. So if you're like this and you're in the same boat, you can check out buywinona.com and you can use the link in our link tree to save some money.
Want the fastest working GLP-1? For half the price, Ro now offers FDA-approved weight loss injections cheaper, with results you can see faster. Lose 15% of your weight with the formula from Eli Lilly that hits not one, but 2 hormones to curb hunger and nausea. Weight loss faster, confidence higher, price cheaper. See if you qualify at ro.co/TV.
Absolutely. I mean, my son's autistic. I talk about it on the show quite a bit for new people, but so he's 12. He's naturally lean, just like his dad was. His dad didn't gain any weight until he's in his I would say, late 20s, you know? Mm-hmm. And he said to me the other day, because he knows that mommy talks about obesity and is an obesity care advocate, all the things in mom's podcast and stuff. And he goes, I don't think I'll get obesity. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, there's no, diet and exercise, not a treatment for it. But if you can focus on your protein and getting in more fruits and vegetables, and you find an exercise that you like or a sport that you want to play, that will definitely help. And it will be good for you. You could do those things. And I go, and don't drink soda. Because it's garbage. Yeah. He's like, oh man, I really should drink less. I'm like, yes, I don't even buy it. Where do you get this?
Yes, school. It's at school.
School, friends' houses. Yeah.
Yeah. Friends' houses.
But I think it's something that we're learning. My son is I guess it was a year ago or something. He went and said that he wanted to have more apples in the cafeteria. It's one of his foods that he likes. He likes applesauce, but he likes green apples. And even when he was young, food's always a struggle with autistic kids, and he really wanted to have more, he thought. And so he got a petition together, my autistic son. and went and got a bunch of people to sign it to try to be able to see if they could get. Now it didn't work, obviously, but just the whole idea that he even tried. And I figured it was for a project or something. And when I asked him, he said, "No, Mama, it's like you told me you have to teach your kids to advocate." And that's because he sees us doing it here, but also because he is autistic. And so I'm trying to teach him to advocate for his needs, right? Because I've been doing it. That's really how I learned to do any of this, right? Is that I was doing it for him, right? And we do so much for our kids. And it is very difficult when they struggle with a mental illness or when they struggle with autism like my son or neurodivergence or ADHD. There's something going on there, right? Where food plays a role and what they eat and what they want to eat. And him, it's a big thing about texture, right? Like if it doesn't feel right, it's not safe, right? And there are very few things that he does eat. And it's not like, oh, he eats all hamburgers. That's not how it works. He only eats certain hamburgers, right? So we had to work over time to find ways to find things that he would eat at home because McDonald's hamburger is his favorite thing, but he doesn't eat the bun. So I was like, well, let's talk about protein and how we would start with this and have our fries second. Like, so I try to take those opportunities because I know that this is the way to try to prevent it as much as possible. But I also know that there's nothing wrong with him. Like he's, if he develops it, I feel a sense of peace knowing that he will not have to suffer. I really do. Anyway,
I reassure parents like that too. When I have families come see me, I can tell the families are just very worried because they don't want their child to go through what they went through or develop the same, complications of obesity that they're dealing with. And I'm just like, you know what? It's okay. They're not going to have the same pathway you did because we're in a different place. You're already here. We're talking, we have treatment options and there's more in the pipeline. Like it's just going to be, it will be different. And that really helps relax the families a little bit, where you can just be like, okay.
That is nice. I like that. I mean, that puts people in a place of, I think, feeling safe. And like, if you're listening now, like hear that, right? We're in a different place. We have options, and tested options. And you don't have to alter your child's body with surgery at a young age if you don't want to. Like it's not, how old were you, Jen, when you had your surgery?
19.
19. Yeah. And like, it's not necessary. If you have things, and that's something I thought Dr. Rosen was really profound when he said, he was like, shouldn't we consider the fact that we don't have to alter their biology and we can just try, And I think that's good, Yeah.
That's what I'll tell families.
I think parents and family are like it's a different time versus I caught a video in the 70s of a weight loss support group. And man, they just sit around and talk about how awful a person they were, or I can't eat I just can't have this. I can't eat the same table with my family. It was, it's so different than it was back then, where it definitely was all on you. You are morally just not a good person, or you just don't know how to push the food away. So it's, there's hope for our kids now.
There's hope. We don't ever have to say those things to them. Our cat, sorry, I know got all passionate and ran over.
Oh, good. Well, it's a really quick one. Like what does, that's good. I get it. What encompasses metallics? We're talking about metallics. I'm redecorating my mirror, and that's why I have metallics.
It's like Freudian slip.
It is. I'm redoing so much in the house right now. All right. So what encompasses a metabolic, not metallic, metabolic disorder?
So metabolic disorders come from metabolism, right? So when we're metabolizing something, we're breaking down, it's the body's ability to break down food into energy. And so if there's a disorder with metabolism, then there's a problem where the body isn't breaking down that food into energy properly. And there can be different subtypes. So there's like carbohydrate metabolism disorders like diabetes, or fat or lipid metabolism disorders like high cholesterol. You might have heard of thyroid, endocrine disorders. So you have like hypothyroidism in it. So that's kind of like the general summary of what a metabolic disorder is, so to speak. And in a way, obesity could be considered an abnormal fat metabolism, right? Or like the fat cells are abnormal in their own way.
Yeah. I think it's weird. Like I remember just like as an adult hearing somebody say that my fat is like basically an organ. It's like blows my mind.
Yeah.
It is an organ. It secretes its own hormones. And that,
Yeah.
I'll say as a physician, that point wasn't driven home when I was a student, when I was learning all of this, and maybe we didn't know it as well as we do now, but it is its own organ, and
Well,
it
I
can
think
be
it probably
dysfunctional.
takes time. I would imagine. I mean, everything else takes time, but
Yeah.
like to have all the studies learned, to have all the knowledge, and then roll that out to providers. Like, I feel like that's got to, unless you're a specialist in obesity, right? And you're following all the articles and you're learning constantly, which is why we tell a lot of our people, if you can get to an obesity specialist, an endocrinologist, a bariatric surgeon, or a telehealth that does really like specialize in treating obesity, I find that it's the best way to go, because a lot of times PCPs either they won't prescribe it, right? Or they don't, because for like, maybe they're ignorant, right? Ignorant just means not informed. I'm not saying anybody's stupid, just not informed, right? They don't feel comfortable with it, right? Or maybe they just don't want to deal with the PAs and all the stuff because they don't have the staff for it. They don't have the knowledge for it, And so then it's like, well, what do people do? Well, a lot of times people will go and maybe their doctor will prescribe it to start, until recently, when I feel like a lot of things changed and then they got scared because of insurance companies and stuff. Mm-hmm. But then they'll prescribe it, but they don't know how to tell them, hey, like, lead with protein. If you're nauseous, this is how to behave. This is about how much protein you should have a day. This is how much bit of water. They don't tell them any of those things. I didn't have any of that guidance. And then I was like, okay, now I need to make sure that I'm being cared for by someone who specializes in metabolic disorders. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think that's really important if people can get there and start there. If you can start with your PCP, then you start with your PCP, right? Like, that's the option that you have, like, and you can do that. But we're finding that, I have found at least, and I think all people in our community have found, that it is better to start with someone that understands, because they are staying up on the latest science. And they do know how to tell you. They're like some doctors. I would say a lot of doctors we see people in our community, if someone gets nauseous and they vomit at all, we don't want to vomit at all, but they'll just take them off of it. Not be like, oh, let's adjust. What were you eating? Are you taking Zofran? Mm-hmm. When did you get sick? Mm-hmm. Like, before? How much? What's your dose? Like, nothing like that. And they'll just take them off because they get scared. No, you shouldn't be vomiting, right? Most people don't vomit, but some people get really nauseous and they do, right? But I think that I hate to think that someone would stop their journey to what we have all seen as life-changing, miracle-working situations, you know what I mean? Because someone didn't know how to handle something like that. And we're finding that happens a lot with PCPs,
That's why people are afraid to tell their doctors when things are going on, because they're afraid that this one last hope is going to take it away.
Yes. And then they come to TikTok, which who knows what will happen there. They'll come to TikTok because they're asking questions. And we have to say to them, because we can't give medical advice, we have to say to them, hey, listen, you are deserving of care. You need to go talk to them and tell them, and here's what you need to say. And if they just take you off immediately, that's not acceptable, right? There are ways to manage this. And if they don't know how to manage it, then all of us have relationships with people that we know know how, right? And we say, if that doesn't work for you, try this, right? But because we can't give medical advice. Some people do. That's another story for another day. But, anyway, sorry, Kat.
I was going to say, some people are also afraid to say anything to the doctors because they're afraid they're going to get a bill.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm doing just fine, because if I say anything, I got tests. Yeah. I did that a couple of years ago when I had like the crappiest insurance.
And then they send off your test work to like places that your insurance isn't covering. You get like this massive.
I don't even know what it was. I think I asked to be tested for something, and it was just, I was like, I should not even open my mouth. It was, I got a bill that was just,
I get it,
ridiculous.
Yeah. Make sure if you ask to be tested, your insulin levels be tested, that they're sending it to the lab that takes your insurance,
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. But so I know that we touched on the influence of genetics and obesity and approaching childhood obesity. So a lot of our listeners do have kids, and they're concerned how to approach their children, or how do they approach obesity, and how do you advise your patients to deal with approaching the obesity in their children?
Quick pause here.
I've had moments on my GLP-1 journey where insurance changes or rising costs force me to look for a new provider. And honestly, that process can feel very overwhelming. But that's why the Plus Sites podcast is partnered with GLP Winner to give our subscribers a resource to help them make that decision easier. GLP Winner is a comparison platform that lets you explore telehealth providers in all 50 states, whether you're looking for brand name medications or compounded options. You can see pricing up front, read reviews, and get a clear picture of which provider might align best with your needs. Check it out today at glpwinner.com/plus sides. That's glpwinner.com/plus sides. Don't forget the Z. Let me tell you a quick story. I was telling Kat how I was regaining weight after my 100-pound loss using GLP-1 medications, and I was having snacky cravings and waking up at 3 a.m., and I had hot flashes, and I was worried. But Kat was like, listen, I went through this last year. It's perimenopause, and I started HRT, and she used this company called Winona. So I started going there to see if this was something that was going with me. Turns out it was, because I'm 46. And it's been amazing. It's taken a while to find the right dose, but once I did, it's just been huge. I've been sleeping. I feel more myself again. And the hot flashes are gone, which is, geez, really bad. So I will tell you, it's just been so big for me. And so I wanted to partner with them on the podcast because obviously many of our listeners are going through this same age range and definitely are having these issues. And there's just no need for you to suffer. So if you go to the link that's in our link tree, you can click on that and save money. If you go there and you meet all the criteria, and this might be something for you to try. So I just want to make sure you had this great resource because it's just been such a big difference for me and Kat. Again, you can go to the link in our link tree and get what you need.
"20 seconds a week to lose 20% of your weight in a year with diet and exercise. That's the power of GLP-1s through Ro. Ro helps find the medication that's right for you, based on cost, availability, and your weight loss goals. Losing weight with GLP-1s is possible through Ro.
It's a very delicate subject, that's for sure. And so I always tell families, if you're not comfortable talking about it in front of your child and you want to bring it up with your doctor, it's okay to ask your doctor to speak separately with them privately, either before the appointment or at the appointment or after. So you can just have that open conversation and just kind of get all the concerns out there. Because how we present and how we talk about it matters to the children. And in my practice, I try very hard not to be too weight centered and more health centered and health habit centered versus like, this is your weight. Now, do we have to weigh, medically in the medical chart? I have to have data, I have to track, for PAs and all the things that I need to do. I do need some data, but I'll do blind weights. So we don't even have to talk about it, or I'll ask, do you want to know or do you not want to know, so that I'm not just throwing it at them and then they have to deal with it. I try to be family centered. So whatever we're going to talk about, if we are going to talk about any kind of behavioral change or, diet change, food, lifestyle, we're doing it as a whole family. We're not doing it for just one child alone, because that's when you're going to be successful. Because we could all stand to eat maybe a little bit more protein and move our body a little bit more and get good sleep and drink our water. Like those are for every human being needs to do that. Right. Yeah. So that's kind of how I like to approach it. Sometimes I have to talk to the parents separately if the parent's more body focused and oh, her belly's so big, or they're just, and I'm just like, let's just not focus on that and let's look at the big picture. How are we feeling? How's our mood? How's our energy? And all of that kind of thing. It's delicate for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think like there are probably people. I think we've had pediatric specialists before, but they've said like, sometimes a mom may come, not done the research and stuff that Jen has done. Right. And just go, I'm on GLP-1. I have obesity. I know that she has, put her on the meds. Right. And that's not always the, way to go. Right.
I've been in that situation. Yeah.
You have? How you navigated that?
At first I was like, tell me your concerns, what are your reasonings behind it? Luckily, this was an older teenager. So I'm like, what's your thoughts on it? What's your opinion on it? And hearing it from them. And if they're consenting, if they're in agreement and they want to, then yes. And so in that particular situation, the teenager was also really desiring it and had metabolic things going on. So we said, let's try it. And she's doing very well with it, right? I've had some come in who are like, prescribe it, and their child doesn't meet criteria for needing it. They don't have true obesity, they don't have any metabolic. And, I'm not trying to gatekeep things, but it's also like, this isn't just to make your kids smaller kind of thing. Like, that's not the goal here. And so I've had to navigate that situation, and I've made some people upset by saying, no, I'm not going to prescribe it. That's not the intent for the medication necessarily.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's good though.
Yeah.
But I think that's good though, to sometimes, like, I think you're in a position to sort of educate the parent as well. Right. To what equals okay and appropriate, I think that, people are always willing, can always go get second opinions, so don't, like, if you listen to this and maybe you feel like your doctor's been a certain kind of way, you can go find another one. It's not easy, especially with pediatrics, right? But you can. I'd like to know, like, a little bit more about sort of the conversation around food in general with kids. So when we were growing up, like, for sure, like, we had like the food pyramid and all the stuff. But it was definitely, and has been the majority of my life, a calories in, calories out. Right. And, especially with Weight Watchers, the way that it was, like, and then I would say even when we were first doing it with Weight Watchers, because it's continued to evolve, which I'm thankful for that, at least. But I remember, like, getting to the point where you had the idea of free foods, right? Well, if you have a binge eating disorder and you have food noise, and you're going to eat your face off of shrimp and corn, right? Hello, and then be like, oh, I'm so great, I didn't eat any points today. Yeah, because all you did was eat shrimp and corn. Like, so it's sort of, I think, could get to the point where if you have disordered eating, it can make it worse. So I would love to know, like, one, maybe some ideas of, like, how you can broach conversations about nutrition with your kids. I think that would be really good for our parents that are listening.
Yeah. So I really try not to be calorie focused at all. I don't prescribe a calorie diet. I don't do anything like that. If we ever do look at calories, it's more just kind of like in the general scheme of things. Like, this one mom was upset about this particular, like, pot pie or something the dad had brought home. She's like, there's 600 calories in it. I'm like, okay, like, well, what else is in it? It's got chicken, it's got veggies, if this was their, entree of their dinner or their lunch, like, I don't see a problem with it. But if the kid's snacking on it in between meal 3 times a day, like, okay, well, maybe we could be a little bit more mindful of, like, the type of snack, and just kind of framing it in that way versus saying, like, well, you exceeded your 2,000 calories, you can't have it, I like to focus on, like, what the foods do in our body. So I like say, well, we want to think about protein because protein is what gives us muscles and gives us energy. We need carbohydrates to give us energy. We need fats to help insulate our bodies, and help our brains work, so just for the younger kids, especially, just kind of talk about it. Like, this helps my eyes, this helps my bones, helps my teeth, that kind of thing. And just kind of looking at how, so that you mentioned the food pyramid. So we don't use the food pyramid anymore. Yep. We have call it the My Plate now, if you guys don't know about it. And so I use it as a framework, kind of just like, hey, we'd love it if our plate could look a little bit more like this, like, you see how there's lots of fruits and veggies. We have our carbs, we have our meats here. What does your plate look like usually? And it's like, okay, if it's all mac and cheese, let's say it's all carbs and a little bit of protein, like, okay, what can I add in so that I can make it a little bit more like this? Instead of saying, well, I need to take away the mac and cheese, I'm just like, well, what can I add into this? Can I add more protein? What protein do you like to put in here? What veggie do you think you'd want to have with it? Just to kind of give them that idea of, like, how to create balance and to make room for everything that will help my body function well.
Yeah.
Instead of restricting, eliminating.
Yeah. I like that. I like that there's that shift, because for sure, like, when we're growing up in the 80s, it is all about less. Less. And, what's interesting is the obesity rate continued to climb the entire time our culture was thriving. And now it's dying a beautiful death. A beautiful death.
Yeah.
Beautiful death. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to ask, let's see. When a parent is considering getting on wegovy for their teen, what are some of the things that they should ask themselves when considering it?
Good question.
What should the parent ask themselves when thinking about it for their teen? It's a good question.
It is.
First, I'd be curious to know like what their personal experience has been with it, so has it been a positive or negative experience if they've had any experience whatsoever, and kind of what's their motivation for considering it for their teen. Is their teen bringing it to them, or are they bringing it to their teen, and why? Is it just because they look a certain way or because of a weight on the scale, or is there something functional that's not working right? Like, is there signs of pre-diabetes or diabetes or high cholesterol or something going wrong with the body? So I think just kind of knowing the intent of it would be good. How much is the cost going to be? Like having a preparation for that. Mm-hmm. And are we prepared to be on this long term? Because I think another misconception right now is that you take it, you lose weight, and then you stop it and the weight stays away. It's like, well, maybe sometimes people can figure it out how to take care of their bodies in a way to maintain it. But if we go back to knowing that it's a disease, the disease is still there, right? Yeah. Just like if you have asthma, there might be times you need to be on daily asthma medications, and times maybe you don't need to. And maybe you can outgrow it over time, but some people don't outgrow it, and they might always need treatment for it. So just kind of keeping that perspective in mind as well.
Yeah. So I think we're always wondering too, like about insurance, right? So if you feel like your teen, so we have adolescents. So right now it's approved for 12 and up, right? Regardless of studies, right? So if we're talking about that, and it's right now, wegovy is approved. Is Saxenda also approved?
Mm-hmm.
12
and up.
12 and okay. Yeah. So zepbound's not approved yet. Are they? I don't even know if they're testing it. Do you know?
It's 18 and up. I think there are some studies being done, but as of right now, it's not approved for under 18.
What's like the process to get approved for Saxenda or
clinical trials?
Wegovy?
They have to have the extensive clinical trials to show benefit and safety and efficacy.
Yeah.
Just in the younger age group. And then I'm not sure exactly how long that takes, but then they submit that to the FDA, and the FDA is like, okay.
So what about when they come to you and they're like, okay, now we're ready. We've done our research. We're interested. What kind of hoops does insurance have you go through to get approved for an adolescent?
A lot of different hoops. Yeah. And it's so variable. And that's why I feel so bad, because I'm like, it's almost a crapshoot depending on what insurance they have. Like, just when I think I've learned a pattern and like, oh, this is what they're going to ask, then there goes a curveball, and I'm like, oh, now what do I have to do? I had one recently. The insurance required 6 months of participation in a structured weight management program that was by the insurance company, like their specific program. Or we could submit 6 months of logs of diet logs that they just approved that they've been on some, and I was like, okay, so the lifestyle thing, like that is still like a barrier that they're putting in there. Some are saying they won't accept it from any provider. It has to be one of their providers, like the insurance company's providers have to write for prescriptions for them to cover it.
Of course, yeah.
So it's like, okay, that's not great. And some, it's just like, no, we're not going to cover it. Period. Like, we're not covering any anti-obesity medications. So it's just a zero. I had one, unfortunately, it was covered, but 100% cost to the patient. So it was going to be like $1,200 a month. And I was like, but you said it was covered. PA went through, but the patient still has to pay for everything. And I was like, okay, well, that's not helping the situation much. And you guys had mentioned about compounding. For pediatrics, it's still very much, it's tricky with the compounds. I'll say, like, personally, I don't prescribe the compounded medications. I don't have a problem with them per se, but we just haven't used it enough in pediatrics to make it a wide,
I mean, we just came around getting adults to do it. So I get it. Like, I get it,
Yeah.
But I think that's good to know, right? Like, was what Jen said, like, I need to go someone who's okay with this or okay with prescribing it, and I have to pay for it.
Yeah.
So I think, like, more knowledge, the better,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, really, like,
full disclosure, like, my malpractice insurance wouldn't cover me if I prescribed compounded medication. Wow. So it's like, well, that's a big liability. I don't know that I can do that.
Well, you know what the worst part is too, is that I found a provider that was willing to prescribe compound before I found a provider that was willing to prescribe her brand. So if you really look at that, you know what I mean? Like, had I come across a provider that had said, if I walked into her pediatrician's office that day and she reviewed everything and they heard me out and said, okay, let's give this a shot, and was willing to call her in brand, I would have downloaded the Wegovy savings card. I would have paid $650 for that medication and been on my way.
Yeah.
Because the first provider that we went to for compound was kind of a med spa type setup. And I wasn't paying much less than that $650 a month for her semaglutide anyway.
Yeah.
So at that point, it was about accessibility, not even cost.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
So
it's like, where do you go? And that I will tell you, that's one of my biggest problems with compound going away, is that if you take it away, the first thing that's going to happen is because we are desperate, because we are sick people that need medicine. We're not desperate because we're thin people that want to stay thin. We're not desperate because we're fat people that want to get skinny. We're desperate because we are sick people with a disease that is wreaking havoc on our body and literally killing us, killing us slowly. You know what I mean? Some faster than others. And the problem is that if you take it away, and we take away 503A and we take away 503B, we're going to that's what we're going to do. We're going to get stupid. We're going to take stupid risks. We're going to go the peptide route. We're going to go on the internet. We're going to use Groupons because we're desperate. Make people that are sick desperate. That's the kind of stuff they do. They cross the border and they this and they that, because that's how it works. So taking away something that we know is regulated in some form or fashion, right, and is the safer option, is just stupid. Sorry. Grandstand. Hallelujah.
Yeah, I agree.
I get a little GLP-1 evangelisty sometime on the show. But like, that's the thing though. But I understand. But like, that's another issue with insurance, right? Is that they're getting in the way of you being able to do what maybe is best for your patient, right? By saying that they won't cover you if something goes wrong, and you can't be without that. Or there are insurance companies that send letters to doctors that have been on the show that have been like, stop prescribing these medicines off label. Don't prescribe, or don't prescribe GLP-1s at all, or we won't whatever. Right.
Yeah.
And what are they supposed to do? That's how they make their money, you know?
Yeah.
It's just like constant barriers to entry, which is going to put us to where we are going, these unsafe, right, or untested or unverified routes, you know? It's really cool.
I do want to say one thing though, that I am grateful for, that we ended up on compound first, because I'm on tirzepatide, which is different than semaglutide. And I heard people share about how the side effect profile is different. So I wasn't certain what my daughter was going to feel. It wasn't like she was on a same medication. I was nervous for her. Like, I struggled. Like, I knew in my heart that this could help her, but I really struggled with getting her, like, finding the courage to even ask for this help from a provider, you know, because there were so many things that led up to it. Like, am I doing what my parents did? You know what I mean? Am I doing all this? Am I like, what are my real motivations for this? Like, I need to look at the mental health element. I don't care if she's overweight. I care that she's healthy. And like, I knew that I could reconcile those thoughts and know that that was where my truth was coming from. But because I was so scared, when I went to her provider and we started talking about this, side effects were my biggest fear, because I knew in a 12-year-old at the time that if she felt nauseous or sick in any way, we were going to fight about this every week, and we were just not going to do it, because I wasn't going to fight with her about something. Like, I used to kick and scream going to Weight Watchers meetings. You know what I mean? So she started at a microdose of, instead of the 0.25, she was started at the 0.125. So half of the starting dose, which is a benefit of compound. And walked right into it. Like, not one side effect, like, was so great. So I was grateful for compound in that regard, because that one, you know, that's not an option.
Yeah. I mean, I get that, Jen. Like, I for sure can hear it now, because I was a teenage girl.
Yeah.
My mom put me on something, made me throw up every week. You know what I'm saying? Like, not my mom was giving me medicine because she's like, that's not what they'll hear.
Exactly.
They're teenagers, you know? Yes. That's a very interesting point. Very interesting point. Yeah. Sorry, Kat, go ahead.
Got it. All right. So both Kim and I suffered from childhood obesity and developed binge eating disorders. For one of us, I know that our parents suffered as well. I was wondering, is BED, is there like a neuroses there that could be hereditary, or can it develop from trauma, or both? What are some of the perfect storms that create that? And also, does this take more than just the child, obviously, to fix, meaning involving the entire family in this healing process?
Yeah, absolutely. To your first question about genetic predisposition, yes. For binge eating, there's about 40 to 50% genetic heritability. Yeah, it's a lot. And there's like twin studies to back this up as well. So there's a very big genetic component. And then, but just because you have the genetics set up, does that mean you'll automatically develop it? Not necessarily.
Right. Mm-hmm.
There have to be environmental factors as well, just like with any other disease that's out there.
Yeah.
Definitely trauma can predispose someone to it for sure. Like if you have the genetic predisposition and you do go through some kind of trauma, it's going to be a high likelihood that you're going to have it. I mean, binge eating disorder is the most common eating disorder among patients with obesity, but it's often the most underdiagnosed eating disorder because many people don't recognize it as an eating disorder. It's just not talked about. They won't share that information because there's a lot of shame associated with it, et cetera. So there's probably a lot more out there than we know. Yeah,
indeed.
And as treatment, definitely, I think everybody needs to be on board. And especially if we're dealing with an adolescent, everything I do, when you're treating the adolescent, the whole family is involved in the treatment. And that can be even just in how we talk about things. How do we talk about food? Or, and that might even be talking grandma, don't be saying things about her body, or don't be saying you shouldn't be eating that right now. Those kind of conversations need to be had with the entire family, because those can be little micro traumas that are just going to reinforce the binge eating. And so when we're having conversations about weight and body size and, the old eat less, move more, that over restriction can really exacerbate binge eating episodes for sure. So I try to be very careful with that.
Specifically their team that was taking this, and he was like, we have to remind him to eat. So I think that's another thing too, is like, there's a piece of like mindful eating and all of these things that are important, like that lifestyle modification thing, that's very real, right? Like it really is. I think it's just a matter of when it starts to click and work for a lot of people. Like some people feel this like right away, right? While other people, need to be midway through, we're at the highest doses of the medicine. You know what I mean? Before they're like, oh, and then they have, I would say, like more control. Do you know what I'm saying? And they're not constantly plagued with like, I need to restrict. And I think all of us, for the most part, if we've ever struggled for a long time, like we will go to that to start when we start the medicine, if there's no guidance as adults. So of course, like if that's how people are, I mean, that's the thing too, is a lot of people can eat less and move more and lose weight. They don't have metabolic disorders. So if their kids have it, then I feel like there's a massive misunderstanding, right? And they're thinking that's the way to be, and that's how it has to work because that's what worked for them. Right. So I think it's really interesting that you say that you've got to have like this conversation with the whole family. I think that's really smart. I love it.
And then the kids learn from us. So if a parent is struggling with binge eating themselves, I highly encourage them to seek out treatment for themselves first.
Absolutely.
Before even talking to the child, or if they're worried about their child doing it too, right? Like, because they'll see us working on it and getting help and learning how to manage it, then that by itself is going to help the child just from them looking and, role modeling in front of them.
True. Yeah, I love that. I'm curious about, and we can wrap up here. But I'm curious about what you think, because I'm not sure if there's any data about it or if it's just maybe your perception or what you think, but the whole idea of when children are presenting with obesity early, right? And we think that they could benefit from a GLP medication because they meet the criteria, right? Of whatever that is. Which we might should outline that too, what that is, so people know. So when they go to the doctor, they know. For kids, I say kids, but I mean adolescents, 12 and up. But I think that like, is there? I don't even know if we know yet, but if say my kid's struggling now and I treat their obesity and insulin resistance now, is it possible they'll never develop into the kind of obesity that I have, right? Now, when I was, back in the day when I would go to the doctor and they would say that I was grossly morbidly obese, right? Like, I don't want my kid to ever, obviously there are levels, right? I can't even say that. And I've always been like this, but I'd love to know, like, do we think that's a possibility if we're treating this early, that maybe they never develop it, or if we treat this early, maybe they never develop it and then they can actually get off of it, because that's a very common thing is, well, when do I take them off? Or they're just going to gain it all back when they get off of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. This is the big question, right? And in pediatrics, we always think about prevention. Like that's the underlying thing is we're always trying to look out and prevent problems, anticipatory guidance, and what can we do to help prevent something from being worse down the road. So, if we intervene earlier, could we slow down the evolution of obesity? Could we keep it from getting, maybe it's in the mild state and prevent it from becoming a severe state where you start having all of the organ damage that happens later on? Maybe. There's also the behavioral component. If we can intervene earlier, would they learn habits that are good earlier, to maintain their body, whatever that looks like for them, in a healthy way instead of yo-yo dieting up and down or over restriction, or, could we prevent them from being bullied, in school, and that's a debate too. We're like, well, you want to make them smaller so they don't get bullied. And it's like, well, we need to be tolerant of all sizes and shapes, but we also have to be realistic, and kids are kids. And their brains are designed to point out abnormalities. That's what they're going to do. Whether you're tall or you're short or you're skinny or you're fat, they're going to comment at some point in some way. But if maybe we could set that kid up for success, with the medication to where their obesity wouldn't be so severe, maybe they wouldn't get bullied as much. Maybe their self-esteem would be stronger. They'd have more confidence. I would want to offer that to them if I could. But that's the big question. Like, will that actually help? Will it? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I would like to think maybe it could. Yeah. I definitely think that it could. If we could enact treatments now that would prevent later problems, why wouldn't I? I mean, I give vaccines to prevent illnesses. So why not give medications? Just like, any illness. Like if you have diabetes, it's like, oh, well, you have diabetes. I'm not going to treat your diabetes until it's severe. No, we don't do that, right? Like if you've got diabetes, like we're going to do what we can to help you out. Your high blood pressure is there. Yeah, we're going to try to lower it before you have a stroke. I'm not going to wait for you to have a stroke to treat your high blood pressure. So that's how I'd like to encourage us all to think about obesity maybe in that way too. If it is a disease, just like all the other diseases, maybe we need to think about treatments a little bit earlier and sooner to prevent longer term problems.
So good ending thoughts, Jerry.
Yeah.
Jerry. What does he always say? Jerry Springer? I was trying to remember
his closing thoughts, something like that.
Ending thoughts. I can't remember what it was. Yeah. Someone tell me in the comments. I can't remember what.
Yeah. And I just watched the Netflix documentary.
Oh, you did? I haven't seen it yet.
I did. Yeah.
That's probably why it popped in my head.
Wait, can I ask one more question to Dr. Zeno?
No. Yeah. Wait, Jose.
My question is, I got a lot of pushback when putting my daughter on this from like people, not medical professionals, but people.
Yeah.
And one thing that kept popping up, and even somebody made a TikTok post about it recently, not pertaining to our situation, but on pediatric use on this medication, is that putting adolescents and teens on these medication is going to perpetuate an eating disorder because of appetite suppression involved in GLP-1s, which I've always, like, for me personally, it's always been a satiation thing. It's never been, I've never had the experience where I've been fully suppressed like some people have. And my daughter hasn't either. It's been more of a satiation thing, but I think that's where their concern is coming from. And I'm just wondering your thoughts on that, because there's articles like that, like whether they're puff pieces or whether they're journal articles that kind of target these medications use in adolescents and teens and how they can perpetuate an eating disorder. So I'm wondering your thoughts treating this.
I don't know. I feel like it would help prevent some eating disorders, to be honest with you, because, if we can decrease the over desire for food, and if we can reset the appetite to where we do feel fullness, like you do know what satiety feels like, and you don't have excess and over hunger, so then maybe that's okay. Like maybe that's what we're just resetting it to normal. That's how I like to think about these medications versus telling someone who has all this extra hunger and not having a sense of satiety to just eat less, just stop eating, right? Like, I think that is worse. I think that's going to create more eating disorders than, but can you misuse the GLP-1s and treat it like a diet, and then you'll have the up and down, or think about it and having disordered eating in the sense that I'm just going to take it now because I've got this trip coming up and I need to lose 5 pounds. Yeah, there is that slippery slope where you could perpetuate that diet mentality with the medications. So you have to be careful with it.
Yeah, I agree. That's the main thing that people tend to come at me with is, you are creating an eating disorder in her. And I'm thinking to myself, we've kind of been there. Like,
know how? Yeah, like you are. Yeah,
you know, like
we've been there.
Yeah, like if you're
like 100%,
that's a thing too. You know, I think people just look at eating disorders sometimes as under eating. They don't understand that binge eating isn't. You know, like I don't know.
Binge eating is an eating disorder as well.
My binging started from bulimia. Like I was making myself
from restricting,
over exercising as a teen. Yeah.
And I do think a lot of that comes from, and it's just like in my experience, obviously love if you weigh in, but for me, like I could not stop thinking about food kind of ever. Like if I did eat as a child, like I remember eating like my mom, I loved spaghetti. Like just, I was all about my mom's spaghetti. It was the best. And she would make it and I would go back for seconds. And then I remember sitting there and just willing myself not to go back for thirds. Like, you don't need it. You don't need it. You're being gluttonous. Like,
yeah. I have a patient share the same thing. She's 8 and she's like, every time I open, they had like a can of frosting. It was Christmas. They were making cookies. And she's like, every time I open the refrigerator, I want to stick my finger in the frosting every single time I see it, but I have to tell myself not to do it. And I was just like, that's not okay for her to be feeling like that. You know what I mean? And it's not her fault that she's having those thoughts.
Yeah.
And I never realized what food chatter was till I was an adult and started doing all of this work and having my own journey. And it's like, oh, not everybody's sitting there like having a conversation, but thinking like, oh, who's going to eat that last piece of that over there? I think I'm going to have it. Can I take it? Should I have it now or should I have it later? You know, as I'm cleaning up,
packing up, they're not looking. Like, I mean, it's like
when they're not looking, I'm just taking it. And
right now, I'm thinking about the grapes downstairs in my refrigerator and the Baby Bell cheeses. I promise you, that's my little night snack tonight. Like I'm
I ate a bunch of protein before we got here, so I'm okay. But you know,
so that part they don't understand.
I get it.
We don't. No,
and it is definitely a misconception that it's gluttony. I think, and that you're weak-willed, and that you're overindulging, and just all of these like very moral statements, and it's just not. Sorry, Dad. Fucking true. It's just not. So,
I find a different word for you. I got to figure it out.
Yeah. It's funny, like I'm observing.
He's asleep.
My husband's naturally thin. His whole family's naturally thin. So like I'll watch him or I watch my niece like and how they eat. And then even my youngest daughter, she's like his metabolic type where she's just, and I'm just like, wow, they just, when they're done, they're done. Like it doesn't matter what you offer, they're done. They're not going to eat anymore. And I'm like, I don't know what that's like. Like I'm just like I'll take whatever,
No, it's crazy, isn't it? Like it's bizarre. Like be like, I'll be mid food, and I remember I actually remember like being like eating my food and like having like the full plate. This is like as a child now, whatever, and feeling guilty that I committed to the food that was on my plate, and therefore I needed to eat it. Like the things that our brain does to us to get us to ingest, because it doesn't, like Dr. Rosen said it perfect. Your body is designed to, when you have a metabolic disorder, to survive a famine. It does not know there's no famine. It doesn't know. And so even now on the medicine, I'll have where I'm very stressed or my hormones are changing because like maybe I'm gonna ovulate. I don't know, who knows these days, and when that happens and then I notice that those are times where I'm more hungry. And what that actually is my body is like just trying to get me to eat more. Right. But usually the medicine will kick in and I'll drop it that fast. Like I'll be like mid bite. We had to have one of our friends recently. And I went, and I just dropped it just like that. Like I don't want anymore. And I was fine. And so I think that like people don't get how it works. And I hate to say it because I felt like such a weirdo when my mom tried it, because my sister and I both have obesity and we take it. And when my mom got on it, and when we took it, I was like, I can't wait for her to have like the realization. because it comes from somewhere. There's a reason we're all on it. Our dad has diabetes. Like it's a whole thing, and because I wanted her to just to realize that thing that we have, like it's metabolic, like it's
clinical.
Yeah.
Metabolic is clinical.
Yeah. And then you get the cultural influences and like familial teachings, like you have to finish your plate. They're starving children. That was taught to me, right? Like, starving children out there, you have to eat everything on your plate, even it doesn't matter. And I'm like, okay, the plate's got to be empty. Yeah. It's wasteful. I can't waste food. I had to work a lot on that. Oh man, I had to work a lot on that.
The wasteful thing is hard. My mom grew up very poor, and so she's always taught us not to waste, right? And always to be very grateful for everything that we have. And for sure, I wouldn't say that contributed to this. This is just who I am, But in general, I do think I had that mentality where I was like, you don't want to waste it. You don't want to waste it. You need to eat it. And that just fed into the issue that I already had, And so it's not a bad thing to teach your kids not to be wasteful, Yeah. But I did tell my son recently about the wasteful thing because I know he sees me do it because I do it. I said to him, I would rather you waste it than for you to eat something that you don't actually want. Throw it away. It's okay. It's okay. Like almost giving him permission, Oh. And there is times where we'll go, I love it. Actually, it makes me happy. We'll all go and I'll order him his burgers at McDonald's or whatever. Like when we're going out and running around about, we do the McDonald's thing, and he'll eat it. And he doesn't order all the ones I bought for him. He's like, good. And I'm like, oh, I just love that you have that. Please don't lose it. I love it. I love that you didn't feel like you had to finish. And he's just like, I'm just done, And that I think that's interesting. I don't know if you've read that book by Johann Hari, The Magic Pill, but it's really good if you haven't read it. Okay. It poses a lot of questions. It poses a lot of good questions. Yeah. But he did say like, who stole our satiety? And I think that's a good question. I think it's a good, and he poses a lot of things like that, like who stole our attention span, like, TikTok, but like, that one, but I think it's true. And it's things to consider, like about the foods and what they do. And so I'm hoping to have more experts to talk about what is the problem with the processed foods. Let's talk about it. Like we need to know. Like, we can't just blame. We can't just say it's only genetic. We can't just say it's only this. We know that, primarily that's what it is, but we know there are these other factors. How do we get ahead of that? Or how do we help our grandchildren or our children or our children's children, right? By making what changes we need to do now. And we need to have that full conversation, So got any ideas? Let me know. On the crowd. Awesome. Well, ladies, this has been a lovely conversation. I appreciate both of you coming, you for sharing and being so vulnerable about you and your daughter's experience, and you for your expertise and also being vulnerable and sharing and letting us learn more. So I hope that this gives everybody a good start, right? To have whatever conversation you feel like you need to have. And maybe you just send this to a friend that is struggling because they see their child struggling, right? Maybe it's, you just send them a link, like whatever it may be, so that they have questions and things like that. I'm going to have links in the show note to all the things that we referenced so that you can do your own research. My goal with this podcast is for you to have everything you need to advocate for yourself, because no one is going to do it for you and no one's going to do it for your kid. So that's up to you, it's shitty that it rolls downhill that way, but that's the way that it is. So sorry, Dad. So I'm going to make sure that we have all that for you as a resource. And of course, we are over on YouTube. We have paid members. We have members on, we just started on Apple, and we have subscribers. So you get early content and you can engage with us and come to our lives and all the things to make sure that you subscribe and follow. But we love you. Thank you for supporting the show. And we will see you next week. Okay. Awesome. Let me tell you a quick story. I was telling Kat how I was regaining weight after my 100-pound loss using GLP-1 medications, and I was having snacky cravings and waking up at 3 a.m. and I had hot flashes, and I was worried. But Kat was like, listen, I went through this last year. It's perimenopause, and I started HRT, and she used this company called Winona. So I started going there to see if this was something that was going with me. Turns out it was, because I'm 46. And it's been amazing. It's taken a while to find the right dose, but once I did, it's just been huge. I've been sleeping. I feel more myself again. And the hot flashes are gone, which is, really bad. So I will tell you, it's just been so big for me. And so I wanted to partner with them on the podcast because obviously many of our listeners are going through the same age range and definitely are having these issues. And there's just no need for you to suffer. So if you go to the link that's in our link tree, you can click on that and save money. If you go there and you meet all the criteria, and this might be something for you to try. So I just want to make sure you had this great resource because it's just been such a big difference for me and Kat. Again, you can go to the link in our link tree and get what you need. Today's episode is brought to you by Ro, a telehealth platform that's changing the game of GLP-1 access. What sets Ro apart? Ro understands the challenges of navigating insurance hurdles and the skyrocketing prices of GLP-1 medications. That's why they specialize in getting insurance approvals for GLP-1s. And if insurance is a barrier, they go a step further by prescribing brand name zepbound vials for prices close to those of compound GLP-1s. With Ro, you're not just getting a prescription, you're getting a partner in your journey that's helping you access affordable treatment and guiding you every step of the way. Whether it's insurance approvals or cost-effective alternatives, Ro is here to make sure that you get the medication you need. Visit ro.co/plussides with a Z today to see how they can help you take control of your weight management journey with affordable, accessible care. That's ro.co/plussides with a Z, making healthcare work for you. Check out the link in our show notes for more details. Are you interested in understanding GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, or Mounjaro? Then join us on the Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, the groundbreaking podcast helping people change their lives one episode at a time. The Plus Sides podcast is a disruptor. We're breaking down barriers, smashing stereotypes, and sharing inspiring stories that'll leave you feeling informed and empowered. Join us every week to learn from doctors who are specialists around GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, and Mounjaro. They'll provide you with science and facts to validate these incredible stories. But that's not all. We'll also bring you the voices of the GLP-1 Mounjaro TikTok community, real people who face the challenges of obesity-related diseases and disorders and discovered the incredible plus sides of GLP-1 medications. Our episodes are filled with heartwarming stories, laughter, and moments of triumph. You'll connect with our amazing community members who are reclaiming their health and experiencing their fullest lives. Are you ready to embark on a journey of discovery and empowerment? Tune in to the Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, and together we'll change the narrative around obesity and end the stigma. Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and join our incredible community. Let's celebrate the plus sides of life together because every story deserves to be heard. Every life deserves to shine, and everyone deserves access to expert knowledge and medication. The Plus Sides Podcast. You're not alone. It's not your fault.